Sorry. Dear diarrhea, diary full of shit. Just play along. Me, myself, and I, and no one else. Yo, I'm so legit. Yeah. Just watching me. Well, it's early in the morning. Just watching me some YouTube. And, must be fate. A short popped up that said 6 years lost in 6 seconds. And a guy and his girlfriend are up in a hot air balloon with other people, mind you. And he asks her to marry him. He's got the ring in his hand and he's all, Chloe, I'll go ahead and make a folder and title it something. You can watch the train wreck for yourself. And poor bastard, I mean, shit, but he's all I've known, for a long time, or 6 years, that I wanted you to be my friend and partner. And I want you to be my wife. And she's all, no, please stop. And she's like, oh shit. Yeah, damn. Yep. 6 years. That's a long time. She's probably got a side dude, and all that, and shit. Poor bastard. I feel bad for him. And I gotta say this real quick. The marriage fails or whatever. This one guy to pop the question. And I've said this before, but I'm gonna say it again real quick. And I don't know if you've heard me say this, sweet Kaydee-Boo. This guy put a ring, the engagement ring, on a fish hook and went fishing in the ocean. And caught a fish. And I'm not sure whose pole it was or how that was going to work out, but the fish got away. And the guy dived in the water, in a desperate attempt, as if, right? But he put the real ring, not a fugazi, not a fake ring or whatever. Oh, by the way, babe, here's the real ring. You're not marrying a doof, who would put a real ring, on the end of a hook, throw it in the ocean, and let a fish eat it. So he dove in, and I guess, but that almost kind of makes for, because they got it on video, because it was going to be this big moment, and that makes for a better, what have you. But it is also something that you will never live down. Old Jimbo here, put a real diamond ring, a couple months worth of his salary or whatever, as they say, on the end of a hook, threw it in the ocean with the intent of letting a fish eat it. And then reel the fish in, yank that bitch out the fish's mouth. It's just been in a fish's mouth, right? So, hey, babe. So he'll never live that down. Hey, Jimbo, I need some help cutting down a tree. It's dead. We need to get it so it doesn't fall over or whatever. I'd invite you to come over and help me, but I'm afraid you'll hurt yourself because, well, you're the type of guy who saws off the branch that he's sitting on. So, or you'll cut the tree down and it'll fall onto my house, because you got to do that, how you need to, so the branches fall and the tree falls and whatever. I was going to be a wildland firefighter for a bit. I went to it was a week-long class, and we did our shit. We did do a controlled burn afterwards, a prescribed burn. So for one day, I got to wear the yellow hard hat, the yellow shirt, and the green pants, and had I forget which tool I had, a Pulaski or whatever, and I dug fire line. But it wasn't up in the mountains or anything. But I always thought it would be pretty cool to be a sawyer, or whatever you call it, or a lumberjack. That was my nickname when I went to the school for the criminally insane. So that and Gabe's. Not Gabe, but G-A-B-E-Z, Gabe's. But that's not my name. But yeah, school lumberjack. But yeah, I think that's pretty cool. And then, and another one, I guess this guy, I saw it the other day. He's all, give me the ring, wingman, and he tossed it to him, and he missed, and it fell in the ocean, and he dived in. So, shit, man. I mean, it's silly and shit. It's like endearing, but at the same time, it's like, you know what? I mean, what if something like, an emergency happens and there's like a war or a weather event, and I need my man to like step up and be smart and efficient and have a plan A, B, C, and D, and be able to shift on the fly and adapt and overcome. Do I want a man? Sigma Salamander Commander Alpha Dog Frog Fucker or not? Who thinks it's a good idea to put a real, several $1,000 ring on the end of a hook and throw it in the ocean and let a fish eat it, But, anyway. So, moles be fate. Today, or yesterday, I saw a piece of garbage that looked like a heart. I saved it. I left it in my truck because I've got a few rocks that look like hearts. I haven't shown them yet. There's like a weird rock. It looks like an Oreo, Rocks are weird, kind of how they formed. Oh, and I found a piece of petrified wood, like a big old chunk, too. I got a few of those. That's cool, That's because it's like a time capsule, right? Was this a tree in the dinosaur days or the like mammoth days, or it's interesting, just how that shit works. So it's pretty cool. I'll show those rocks, but just haven't done it yet. But yeah, it's a piece of plastic pipe, and like from the angle that I was, looking down at it in the loader, it looked like a heart. And then I went, I actually got out, I'm just and it looks like a heart. So. I'm thinking of you, bring you home a piece of trash. And it'll be endearing. You'd appreciate it, Kaydee-Boo. You would. Because it's different, and I'm me, and I'm special, and I mean that humbly, but I'm right. And I can say it, It's like, look, I'm aware, I'm different, and still have it be like legit, you know what I mean? It's not like, oh, my man, he's so It's like, you damn right. I'm like nobody you've ever met, woman. So, we're like two Legos. I'll bring out the best in you, and you'll make me a happy boy. I know I did that video, like, hey, I'm for you. You ain't for me. You're just a luxury. Okay? I make your world. You complement mine, woman. And that's the truth. But, you're cute and shit. So. And I don't know if you're like a goody two-shoe and, how many dudes have ran through you and, what your body count is. But I bring lust to the table, all right? Now it's not stupid, sloppy lust, I want you to be a diva. I want you to be in control. If you ain't a blowjob queen now, you will be. Set me in a chair and, turn me into putty in your hands. Now, I say you make me feel like a schoolboy, which you do, but you won't really be dealing with a schoolboy. But, yeah, have at it, girl. Work me over. So, hopefully you're not some sort of putz. I'll train you up. I think you'll take to it well. But I don't know. I mean, you're a pretty girl, and you're not married yet, so... What's the deal? Because you want to get married, I know that. You probably want kids, right? Maternal instinct is kicking in. All your friends are just a little bit younger with kids or having kids. First kid, second kid, third kid, who knows? But, anyway. I don't really have anything to say. I just wanted to say I found a piece of trash today that made me think of you. So, talk to that dude. It's a 1968 Ford Fairlane, all rusted out. It's kind of lowered in the front and lowered in the back, so plus it's got the engine, but it's actually got like an aggressive stance, It's got like 3-inch, exhaust that just dumps out the side. He was working, so I didn't, have him start it and take it for a test drive or whatever. But he's interested, He never really thought about selling it, But I told him, I said, I was going to swing in and offer you $500, and then I saw what was going on here, and it's like, well, obviously you've done some work to it, so. He said he'd think about it, I said, how much would you want for it, He said, well, I never really thought about selling it, I guess I'd have to think about it and think how much work I put into it and all that. So yeah, just Kaydee-Boo. Look up a 1968 Ford Fairlane in shitty condition. And that's what we'll be driving into town in. Now, I haven't heard it run, right? It's a 3 on the tree, which I've driven before, because I've driven a shit ton, all kinds of different vehicles and trucks. Driven some pimped out trucks. Every engine, every transmission, including a 5 and 4 double stick. And I drove that for a couple months. That wasn't just like, I drove for a day, So that was cool. It was a 3-axle dump truck. That's where normally I was driving a tractor trailer, 5-axle flow boy, hauling asphalt. And sometimes I'd haul aggregate, sand, rock, and whatnot to make the asphalt. But, driven some pimped out trucks with all the gauges and switches and dual stacks, like 6-inch stacks with no muffler, Jake brake, make your balls shake and all that stuff, throwing them gears, Yep. Then, my last company, just trucks in general these days, They're shit. They got the after treatment system. Yep. But anyway, I'd want to swap out the 3 in the tree, for like a 4 on the floor or 5 or whatever. And like I said, I want my El Camino, and I want it to be like a 454, big block, naturally aspirated, not blown or super or turbocharged or anything like that, but I want it to be a big cam baby, where it's all, and all that shit, where it rattles, when you're at the stoplight, so. And that's, that's who you're marrying. I mean, if I want to troll, did that sort of shit, this wasn't all complete utter fucking bullshit, but, everybody else is in there, Hellcat or whatever, hearing this piece of shit, on the outside. But we pull up at the stoplight, windows down, no AC, it's squat down in the front. So, fucking cool, man. Yeah. Haven't done any of that shit yet, but I got plans, yo. Got that big damn shed, four bays, quote unquote. Got the lift. The guy's gonna come out and, assemble it. So I'll be able to start doing my own brakes, tires and all that shit. I'm not gonna have, no. Wouldn't have, like officially, because I'd have to break them down and I don't have the. Well, wait a minute. I don't know, do you need a machine to do that? Because I've never been like a professional, mechanic, but I've been like a parts hanger, brakes, clutch, just swap out parts, and tires, is something that I did. So, you got the machine there, and all that. So, so if you need to actually patch it as opposed to, a plug. I don't know, Maybe I'll just get one of those. Maybe I can buy one, you know, used or whatever. Shit. Because like I said, I'm going to have that, you know, shed set up with different, you know, hoses and chains and wood and cables and clamps, you know, and, you know, if I need to, like, just make something, fabricate something, I will. So, and be smart about it. Understand, you know, that metal isn't the same metal these days. Apparently the ingredients are different. Yeah. So, and as far as welding, like I said, you know, I built those ramps, you know, that held, you know, a John Deere 3020, you know, tractor with a bucket and, you know, a scraper and all that. And they held, you know, but the repeatedly, you know, but the ramps also weighed like 80 pounds each, so that was a failure. It's because the edges, I use those C-beams or whatever, and I cut it with a torch and heat it up and bent it down and welded it together. The angle iron I used was too thick and stretch metal, you know, they were just overbuilt, so. So. It's kind of funny, I gotta tell this story real quick because it's so epic. I was welding, and I had the, you know, ramp set up on a couple of plastic buckets, and I had my welding, you know, helmet down, you know, just arc welding. Lifted the helmet up, and the buckets were on fire. Not as bad as, you know, putting a ring on the end of a fish hook, you know, but anyway, shit. Yeah, but I was like 16 years old, so that doesn't count. Anyway. So, I'm at 17 minutes. Sweet, sweet Kaydee-Boo. It's early in the morning. The sun is crusting the horizon, and you are on my mind, girl. Ooh. It's too bad I'm a troll, because we'd be one hell of a couple.